is you're gonna just talk, you know, and just be like, oh, this is an extension of the history from last week's PowerPoint, right? And by the way, everybody loved it.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so informative.
Oh, wow. I'm glad.
Good.
It was really good
about it, because when like I rewatched it and I was like, oh wow, like you were right. I was like, man, that was good. But I guess I just was like, I don't know, I guess like letting spirit talk. So it was like, oh yeah.
That was the difference, because everyone kept saying to me, Tracey, you know, Charlotte Mellencamp, whatever her name is. I apologize if I'm not saying it the right way. Everyone kept saying it to me prior to this video. So how do I tell everyone, yes, guys, yes, I know about Charlotte, but I don't know about Charlotte. So I hear the clients, when they text me, are like, no, there's been a Black queen. And I go, I know, but you're not giving me enough information. And that means I've got to do all this research to figure out how to tell you guys what I know. And it's not necessarily my gift. So when you were talking and people were watching it throughout, you know, this week, it was like people absolutely didn't know any of this and were like so pleased to know so much information. And others were like, oh yeah, Tracey, that's, you know, but it was really nice to the share screen.
Do it.
That sounds like a song. You can do it. What song, Gio? Sounds like a song. You could do it.
You can do it if you do it and you do it all night. Is that the song?
Oh, yes.
I know that.
Oh yeah, baby, we can do it. Take the time to remember. We can do it, baby. Do it all night. That's right.
That was the song, Melissa. That was the song. So I think I have to go to Takira, and then I make you the host. Do you want to change the host to Takira Lytle? Yes.
It's a Takira Lytle is the host now.
Takira Lytle.
Lytle.
Could you?
Takira, you had a lot of people woke that day.
Oh,
yeah,
I
a lot
did.
of people said, I couldn't believe you had them woke. And I know those white people were sneaking to go watch that, because they was like, oh, this is, you know, they was woke too. What?
Everybody got woke.
Oh, wow.
Everybody got woke.
Everybody got woke.
I mean, that's part of the process. Like we're learning about with everything. It's like it's starting. So it's good that people should start getting woke.
Yes.
Okay. So hi, my name is Takira. Takira. Oh no. Sorry.
There you go.
Is it good now? Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. So, hi, this is, no worries. Okay. So, hi, this is Takira, Takira Lytle. And this is just a continuation from I guess part 2 of the, when I talked about last week with Miss Tracey and everyone about the kind of reaction that you're seeing going on currently with, we mostly focus on England, but also with France. And this is kind of like the part 2 of it with France, seeing it how, you know, you're starting to see this big kind of blow up with England. And since France and England have such a close history with each other, and they're both have had I guess I would say with people of Black descent, like Black Americans, particularly Black French Africans, to see like what kind of result is going to happen for France. Like, are you going to see the same like big blow up to the extent that England's going to have in the UK? So I'm going to do that as a tarot reading, kind of like TarotFusion.
Ooh.
I know.
Sorry, I like that.
No, you're fine. Yeah, it's kind of like something to mix it up a bit. I'm gonna draw some cards in a minute. I'm just focusing real quick. So if you don't hear me talk for a minute, How I read tarot is that usually when I get a question, I tend to focus on the question first. And usually I'll get spirit shows me a picture first. Like I get a sort of, I don't know, I always call it like a movie preview. Like you see like a movie screen kind of thing. I don't know. My spirit for me, that's how we communicate. And then from there, I have the cards usually are right. Like spirit usually shows through the cards. It's like, hey, what I showed you, the cards exactly show it. So I'm just, if you don't hear me for a moment, I'm just going to be focused on the question. The question is, it's like, what, their involvement historically, how does that play out? Is this spelling the end for France as we know it, or what will come of it? So just a moment. Okay. So actually what I did when I was visualizing it, I actually did have a picture that came up. It actually showed like it showed like the streets of France, but in the sense of there wasn't that many people. It was kind of empty. Like usually when you think of France, I know in most pictures you see there's always a lot of people there, but the way I saw it was that there's not that many people there. And then I just heard, like, I heard someone speaking saying like, hello, like someone's like, I don't know if it's like a person's like looking for someone or something. But that was the vision I got when I had my eyes closed. So I am now drawing cards. So if you hear my deck shuffling, that's why I'm pulling my cards. So just a moment. Okay. So I did finish shuffling and I pulled my 10 cards and so I'm going to go through them. My core card, the first card I have is the Sun card. So how does this play out for France? What is the survival? Like, does France survive from this, from their, I guess the thing would be the historicalness of it, like what they've done in the past, like how does that play out? I have the Sun card. So for me, that is that I do see there is some kind of victory here. I see it in terms of, with my Sun card, it is with a kind of victory with France. I say that with France. I say that because the second card is the Ace of Wands, and that crosses the Sun card. So France is going to have some kind of victory, but I always put this as the but. The main issue for France is the Ace of Wands, which is all about new beginnings and new creations. France has a habit, as I showed in the last PowerPoint, of when they view something in victory, it's always the way they have to go about making it happen, like executing it. In terms of it becomes an obstacle. With the Ace of Wands here, it's all about creativity and new things. When you think of France, you do think of creativity, but this is a different kind of creativity. This is like the creativity of the people. The people make the countries. So the obstacle is like France has always wanted to be victorious. They've always seen themselves as this country that's victorious, like they stand above and beyond, you know, for the culture, the food, the whatever. And the obstacle is once again the Ace of Wands, meaning the people who've helped to make that victory. Is like, how do you deal with that now? Those people are starting to rebel. You have COVID affecting them. You have, you know, a lot of other issues affecting them. How is it that France is going to get this victory? For the foundation card, I have the Page of Swords for them. So a main obstacle for them, like historically, has always been about like how they deal with things, because the Page of Swords can be about diplomacy. It can also be about communication. That has always been France's way of how they have achieved victory in the past, in their version. The reality, once again, is still diplomacy. How do you deal with these? As you see what's going on, the implosion with England, France is looking at that too. How are they going to deal with that in terms of communication with their own, as they call them, their own part of France, the parts in Africa, the parts still, you know, to them in the Caribbean and such. Even I think they have in South America, if I'm not mistaken. But that's really going to be for them historically how it's shown they've kind of made their route. And I'm not surprised that the Page of Swords is their foundation card on the bottom. So once again, that's going to be something that France, I think, will be trying to, you know, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, try to kind of deal with that. So if they have these uprisings, if they have these people kind of starting to turn away from France or not wanting to be a part of it, like you see with the Ace of Wands crossing them, how can we win them back? How can we gain their trust? Oh crap, we see what's going on with England. We don't want that to happen to us. So we kind of need to start righting our wrongs, or what we think they'd like to hear. Hence the Page of Swords. Now, for their past, I have the Page of Wands. So the Page of Wands is all about new beginnings, new, you know, like an excitement to start a new beginning, an excitement to get things done. As you can see on my screen, there's actually is a picture, and I kind of view this as a little bit of a Page of Wands situation. Those are the two big revolutions that happened in France, but there was an excitement there. There was an excitement from the people, like you see with the French Revolution, for change. There was an excitement, like you see on the top part, in Haiti for the people, for a revolution. They were excited for change. France also, but that wasn't the kind of change they wanted. France has always been about, hey, we're all about changing things. We're all about expansioning. We're all about growing, and we're excited to do it, and we can't wait to do it. They've always been like, hey, if we do this, let's go, let's go, let's go. That kind of energy. They don't show it now because, you know, I don't know, it's the French way. You don't show that kind of excitement or something. But looking at them historically, once again, it makes sense with the Page of Wands being in their past. It's always been new excitements, expansion, growth. We're excited to start these new things, travel. These are things we look forward to doing. So it makes sense it shows up in their past position. Crowning their situation, I have the Queen of Wands. So for them, remember, their main card is the Sun. Their foundation card is the Page of Swords. And then crowning them is the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is all about making, like, getting stuff done, but balancing home and life, or home and work, like balancing everything you got on your plate. So crowning them, France sees the situation as like, okay, we see what's going on. We have our own obstacle, which is the Ace of Wands. We have people from BLM starting to raise a fuss, and, you know, people in Africa starting to raise a fuss. We're having issues over there. How do we balance this? How do we get this back in our corner? How can we make people feel more comfortable in wanting to stay a part of us? Like, yeah, forget the stuff in the past we did, you know, with the Page of Wands being like, forget us coming into your country illegally and doing all this killing and mass murder and stuff. Like, let's forget about that. Like, let's not talk about that. But what can we do now to make it better? That seems to be, at least from what my cards are showing, what the French's position is. White France. I'll make that distinction, not Black France. Black France and minority France, the other quote unquote of France, or more kind of like, we want change, we want it now. And France is like, once again, remember, like, hey, remember, we're all French. Let's talk about this. You know, like, let's try to talk their way out of it, like very smoothly. But I don't know, France. I've got the Three of Swords for you for the near future. I think whatever France does, I feel like the action that's currently going on with COVID, with the thing going on with BLM, that still hasn't fully ended. Plus, you have the issues of France in Africa, Muslim in Africa, as well as outside of Africa, in their own country and in countries that they're involved in. That, I think, will play into some issues for them, because with this Three of Swords card, it's a very deep hurt. The way I see it is like the people end up reminding France, even though France tries to approach it in their mind as a diplomatic, like, hey, we're all united, we're all one. The Three of Swords is like the people putting France in their place, which is like, no, you need us, we don't need you. And if you keep playing us, you're going to end up really, really hurt. Like, this country will burn, or we will just what is it? Like, we'll just, oh my God, sorry, I have like a brain fuzz. But it's basically to the extent where the people are now calling the demands. It's going to come to the point where France is kind of going to be like, what are they going to do to win? They don't necessarily want to give in to the people. They don't want them feeling like they have the power. That's always been France's thing. They've never wanted, even though there's been a majority of people that they have colonized and taken advantage of or persecuted or whatnot, they've never wanted those people to realize the true power they seem to have. So with the Three of Swords as their near future, to me, that's like, they eventually get told, look, you may have done this in the past, but you're not going to be doing this anymore. Whatever you think is going to turn out is not going to turn out. And with France being in this Three of Swords position, it's more kind of like they get put against a wall. And they're kind of like, well, we don't necessarily want to give in, but, oh, okay, we'll start doing what you want, just so they can get out of it. I mean, that's the sense I get so far
Right.
from that. So their next card, current thoughts, are the Knight of Wands. Once again, it's another fire card, but it's another movement card, fast action. They're wanting this to kick off soon because once again, they realize that the longer this happens, they have a lot of fire, which is interesting. I see from the cards I have so far on my spread with France. They have a lot of fire. They know it's essentially a tinderbox situation. So they're more the Knight of Wands position, which is like, hey, if we can get this started as soon as possible to try and prevent this inferno from taking off, like any little spark could make it go, then we're going to do what we need to do. And interestingly enough, that's on the same position as their Page of Swords, which remember is all about communication. So France is trying to get ahead of the fire. They're trying to get ahead of whatever this tinderbox situation is that they see.
Wow.
Exactly. So they're just like, okay, well, yeah, you guys are, hey, vive la France. Like, we're all one. Oh, you're still mad about that thing we did like 50 years ago, the Algerian War? Well, hey, let us start trying to fix that now. We're still not going to fully apologize for it, but if we can just make it seem like we're ahead of it, maybe you won't be so mad to retaliate against us or tell your people to boycott us. That kind of situation. So the next card I have in their current environment is the Two of Cups. Once again, that's another confirmation with the diplomacy card of the Page of Swords they have in their foundation. Two of Cups. They want that balance. Hey, let me wine and dine you, these other colonies, these other parts of us. Hey, how can we make y'all feel better for right now? Oh, you're still mad about the BLM thing? Or, oh, you're still mad we colonized you like 200 years ago, like in Haiti, and we're still, you guys had to pay us back for essentially fighting for your freedom? Oh, how can we fix that? Like, I feel like that's either something France is realizing they have to start doing, or they're kind of going to have to do in the future. Because like I said, I see a lot of fire cards with France. It's essentially a tinderbox situation with them. So I do see France, at least in their current environment, having to try to more reach out. Maybe it's not something they want to do, but once again, with that Page of Swords and the Two of Cups, it's like they realize they have to do it. So they're going to do whatever they have to do, even if they don't truly believe it, even if they might end up trying to go back on their word later. For right now, whatever can stop the fire is fine with them. I have their hopes and fears. I have the Seven of Swords. I think, once again, this is why I think France is either going to try and appease them for now, whatever issues come up that France's name gets dragged into. If it's not happening now, then it'll happen in the future when something comes to light. I have France worried. I have them with the Seven of Swords. They're worried that maybe more of their past comes to light, and then that can be the tinderbox. That can be the thing where the people, the younger people, maybe they didn't fully learn the history of that in France because, France wouldn't teach that. Maybe they're learning it and it just makes them so mad. Some of the next generation is like, well, we need to do something about this. Like, we're not going to stand around from this. I feel like it's something like that. It's something tricky that France doesn't want. Either they're worried that either more stuff about the historical past comes to light, or it's something with their people currently that I feel like it's going to be a problem. So they're worried that whatever this is, hey, if we wine and dine them enough, maybe they'll calm down and they still won't realize that we're taking advantage of them. It's that kind of fear that I guess they're hoping that it doesn't catch on for whoever this is they're trying to wine and dine, essentially. final outcome, I have the King of Wands. Once again, another fire card as their final outcome for France. Really, it... Oh, hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I heard a ding.
You okay?
Yeah,
You heard?
sorry, I heard a ding. So I was like, oh, what is that?
No.
Okay. So I had the King of Wands as their final outcome for France. So really for them, it's once again that they want that position back in the sun. So it's more like they see themselves as maintaining that. I don't know if it's like the white French who it seems like that might be more of their position. So in France's mind, I think it's more of like the people in the upper part, like the politicians and prime minister and all of them. I think they see themselves as winning. But in order for them to win, it's like they're still trying to kind of do the same tactics, and they're just hoping that people won't catch on again. I think they're hoping that their history at least it seems from what the cards are showing is that in their mind they think that they're winning, and they're very friendly and cosmopolitan and very balanced culture, very balanced country. We hope that this doesn't have people look more into that, because I have, once again, I feel that with the King of Wands, it's like, hey, this is our time to shine. They have the Sun card as well as their main card. We're winning. And as long as we keep the appearance of we're winning, then everything's good. But like I said, with a lot of fire in France's, at least all the cards I'm seeing that are fire are a majority here. And it seems like, especially with that Seven of Swords they have in their hopes and fears position, is that they're really worried that whatever comes to light does not start a situation. Because once again, they have in the near future a Three of Swords situation. So something is going to happen that is going to be a problem for France. But I think they're trying to prevent as much heartache for them, for the country of France, meaning the majority of white French, I don't know, opinion or something, so that it doesn't really create more problems than necessary, is essentially how I got it from my cards with them.
Right.
But yeah, that's it so far.
Oh, I have a question. I think one of the things that you said was they don't want us meaning the black version side, the black side of France. They don't want us to remember. When I say we, I'm not talking about me, but maybe I am, because I am Haitian. They don't want us to remember that we told them to pay us back. Is that something in history that I'm missing?
Yes. No, you're actually right. So
what the hell?
Right. What happened? Yeah.
I said, what the hell?
I know, right? Well, actually, it's funny because on this very screen, like these two revolutions was a big thing for France. A big thing. And it's actually funny because the more you learn about the Haitian Revolution, like the whole start of it is just, it's really interesting. It's very how they reacted in the situation with France, but it's still very interesting to learn from a historical perspective. Because mind you, while they were fighting in the Haitian Revolution going on, they also had in their own country at the same time the French Revolution happening as well.
Really?
So
wait, so while they were fighting Haitians.
Yep.
They were having their own. That's a lot of war and not enough manpower.
Exactly. The French Revolution
Wow.
started May 5th, 1789. The Haitian Revolution officially started. It had been building up, but it started August 21st, 1791.
You
And
know,
this
then
is
that brings me a point. It started
Yeah.
under fire.
Exactly. It started under fire. And both of those wars lasted France. They lasted more than 10 years each.
What?
Both at the same time. They had the French Revolution in their own country. And then outside of France, they were dealing with the Haitian Revolution going on at the same time. Both wars bankrupted France. They were so economically devastating to France. Literally after the Haitian Revolution ended, it had to end up selling some of the Louisiana Purchase happened.
That's how we got the Louisiana Purchase.
Because France had been so bankrupt, but economically devastated by both wars. Because not only in France, or not only in Haiti at the same time was that going on, they also had England and Spain start helping out the Haitians at the same time that France was trying to fight the Haitians.
Oh my God.
Right. And then, like I said, at the end of the war, it ended. So they came to an agreement.
Hold on a second.
They were like, okay,
hold on a second,
we'll
sweetie.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Hold on a second. You're hosting and somebody's trying to get in.
Oh, sorry.
Look at the participants.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I see. My bad. Okay, I'll come on screen now.
Perfect. So I start where I interrupted you. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
I was gonna. Can I interrupt you again? Now that I wanted to say, anybody who watched Hamilton, or and was a fan of Hamilton, if you saw it on Disney, there's a part where Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson get into an argument about whether the United States is going to send money to France for their revolution because they helped to finance our revolution, and it had to do with Lafayette. There's a character that Thomas Jefferson and Lafayette play the same guy, but Lafayette is played first because he taught. He was one of the generals of our who helped us to fight, and later on, as Thomas Jefferson, he says, we should really be helping out your friend Lafayette in France since he helped us out. And Hamilton says to him, Lafayette is a big boy. He can handle it. And why would, he can handle it. Why would we give them money now when we're trying to birth this new nation? So therefore, once again, France is fighting two wars and they ain't got the money to fight two wars.
No, because literally what happened with the Haitian Revolution, once it was like starting to kick off and France was kind of dealing with it, which if you look at it from the spiritual perspective about the history of the Haitian Revolution, it's very funny because literally like what they said, I think it was that they all like had met, like the people who are going to be starting this, they all met before and they had a big voodoo celebration.
Big what?
They had a big voodoo celebration.
Who had a big voodoo celebration?
The Haitians.
Oh, did they? They brought ELEGBA into it.
They did. They had a big. They did. And then what started happening is that after started turning in their favor, the French started getting very, very sick. Like yellow fever was exploding around their camps. Like when the French would go inland to fight the Haitians, most of their soldiers started dying.
Babalu, the god of infections.
Exactly. And the Haitians were they were fighting battles and winning. So for them, it's like, this is, this is our God coming to guide us to victory. And no matter how many soldiers France kept sending to Haiti, it just never was enough. They kept dying off, or they would just they would lose battle after battle. So then what England started doing is England started noticing this. And because Jamaica was close by, they would start coming in. The English Navy would start coming in and kind of observing the scene. And they'd be like, oh, and they would wait. And the English started making bets because they were like, oh, if France loses, we're close enough, we can come in and swoop it in and claim it for our own. So England was positioning.
England almost got Haiti?
They almost did, but they were siding with the Haitians for the time being because they, in their mind, it was like, let's help the opposition to beat the French.
Yes.
So if they win, we can come in and be like, hey, we helped you guys. We gave you ammo. We gave you guns and stuff. You know, maybe we can
kind of like the Lincoln Project today.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, these two wars in particular were detrimental to France because France, once again, with their own revolution going on, you have their own people fighting in the country for what they felt was an injustice in their country against the monarchy, against the persecution they felt. And then you have the Haitians, which is ironically, they started giving up their colonies because it was costing them so much, but they would never give up Haiti. And the reason they never gave up Haiti was because Haiti was France's richest colony. Because Haiti made so much sugar that got imported to France and they used it for it made France a lot of money. So that was why France was fighting so hard with Haiti, because they did not want Haiti to, exactly. They did not want Haiti to gain their freedom because Haiti was so rich for France. It made France so much money leading up to the Haitian Revolution. But
beautiful.
Yeah, but both wars really changed the tide for France. Now, when you learn French history, they never tell you that these happened at the same time. Most times when you're learning French history, and they always mention the revolutions, they always mention just the French one, which that was devastating. But imagine fighting two wars at the same time.
Yeah.
You're hearing about men, women, children in Haiti, French citizens, mind you, men, women, and children being murdered by the thousands in Haiti, while people are trying to gain their freedom. And while, the France wants to send soldiers and stuff, they're like, well, wait, every time we send soldiers, they keep dying because of, yellow fever or whatever down there, or they just get killed. But we have to protect our people as well. But at the same time,
we're losing.
Right. We're losing either way. No matter what we do, we're losing. So how can we fix this? Which these two were also very influential in French policy afterwards, in how they dealt with stuff and how they.
So I want to get something very clear. So in your tarot reading, which is what this is,
yes,
unlike last week, which was a history lesson.
Yes.
In your tarot reading, I think what I hear you saying is that there is something brewing by way of history and by way of color.
Yes.
That they may not be able to escape. That's what I believe I'm hearing. But they're going to act like, no, that's not us. But all the while think they're going to trick us. Gaslight. Gaslight.
Exactly. Because they don't want to seem weak. Because to them, it's like, if you're seeming weak, then everybody else jumps on you. They're all going to take a chance to get at you. So, right.
Go ahead.
Is that
just France's way of thinking then? Is that just who they are as a culture?
Historically, yes.
Okay.
That is.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, once again, that's why I have these two pictures up, especially.
Mm-hmm.
These two pictures helped why it's so important to remain very French, like heavy French, what do you call it? Nationalism. Because what these two wars did was, like, before it would be like, hey, we're French, okay, you know, it's whatever. But really, these two wars helped the nation. Like, everything we do is to protect the nation, because also these two wars brought Napoleon afterwards.
Mm.
And Napoleon was very heavy on emphasizing French nationalism and French culture throughout France.
And what was Napoleon's nationality?
Napoleon was Corsican or Italian.
I thought so.
Yeah. So he liked to, once again, like the tarot cards are showing, focus so much on the King of Wands, focus on the power you hold, what changes you make with your fire, your action, you know. So Napoleon was always like that. And he also tricked, what's his name, from the Haitian Revolution, the famous general, I don't speak French. Toussaint Louverture?
Oh, Toussaint.
The famous French general who helped Haiti win the Haitian Revolution. He tricked him into meeting one of his French officers. And the minute he came to the meeting, they arrested him and sent him to France, where he died. They starved him to death.
Okay. So the bottom line is, with all this fire energy,
right?
Do we see? I mean, do you see like land being destroyed? Because fire energy to me feels like destruction. Always has been.
I think it is something of theirs that gets destroyed, because I have in their near future the Three of Swords. So it's obviously something very near and dear to them as the French country. Yeah. Now, what that is, I don't know. I mean, France has a lot of monuments and stuff that are near and dear to them, but it's obviously with that card in their near future, obviously something gets affected that really pisses the French off, or it cuts deep to them.
What do they own? What countries do they own?
That's a good question. I know they still have some territories that, or not territories. I know they still have some well, they're not colonies anymore, but I know they still have some like agreements with countries in Africa that have been colonialization, like a part of them and stuff. But in terms of what they own still, I'd have to look at the geography again. But I feel like it is something. I know it definitely is something they still own. But I
think if I'm talking about ownership, I think it might come, for me, it might come in the form of money. Like, what's their wealth? Like, why are you holding on to an African culture? Like, where's the wealth at?
Well,
that only that country would know.
I think in that case, it's what I'm thinking of it historically, as well as what my tarot cards are showing, to make sure I can relate it.
I'm thinking, they still call certain parts of West Africa French West Africa? And
really?
I think Senegal, I'm not 100% sure, but when you were saying there's certain areas of Africa I'm definitely thinking of Senegal.
Yeah.
But
I definitely feel like it's something. I feel like maybe resources for France more than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I
But
think
I'm also looking for fire resources. Fire.
Yeah, I think it is
fire. So if that's the case, who owns the part where diamonds come from? Because I'm looking for fire, and that would be ice. That would be diamonds.
Yeah.
So I'm not asking you to figure it out right now. I'm just trying. Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, this sounds crazy. So if there's going to be an issue, it's going to be an issue over something, like you said.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't want to give up Haiti because of the sugar cane.
Yeah.
So if they're still in Africa pretending like, no, we're in agreement, you know us, we like you, you like me. Yep. Why?
Well, like I said, I have diplomacy cards here. I have the Page of Swords, which is about diplomacy and communication. I have the Two of Cups in their environment, which is, you know, that union. They still want that union because it benefits them. Right. With that fire, you don't want to piss that off, because then the people could be like, you know what, we don't need you, and they could burn your stuff.
And I'm wondering when it's going to come to that. I'm wondering when they're going to recognize, the Africans are going to recognize, you need me to go into these mines. I stopped today. If there's some weird type of revolution coming out of France, because I just think that like everyone is in trouble. Everyone.
Yeah. No, I agree. I see that in my cards.
It sounds to me like France is going to, like, they have to get pulled in because they up there acting like they ain't never did nothing. Don't look at us. Don't look at us.
Like, my name is Bennett and I ain't in it.
It's funny because I have the Sun card as their main card, which when I always think of the Sun card in France, I think of Louis XIV.
The Sun King. Yeah.
And they are always about that sun imagery. Like, we find the world, you know, we make the world what it is because we're France or whatever.
Got it. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. I really love this reading.
I know, right?
Yes. Yeah. I really love this reading, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see the development of all of this.
I did too, because especially like I said, me seeing that Three of Swords when it came out, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then seeing the Seven of Swords in their hopes and fears, I was like, they're worried about something, and something get messed up with them that they are going to really regret or really miss having.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. And I just want to add that, sorry, it was so good.
Go for it.
And, you know, it was really good that you could tell you were just like a little bit nervous in the beginning, but once you got into it, you were like into it.
Yes.
You know, you were speaking it. You were like, you know.
Yeah, living it. Yes.
In it, you know. It was like you were only nervous during the first like 2 seconds, and then it was like you started reading and it was like boom, boom, boom. It was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, it was a good idea, you know, for, you know, to let people know that you start off, that you need to take time to get in that zone. Don't be afraid to ask for that. And if it seems like, you know, are people not going to understand, let them know that you take a good fat moment of silence to get into that space, and let everybody else who, you know, if you're doing it live, like with us, say, you know, feel free to take time to go into yourself and be ready to receive the information.
You know, Gio, that's a really good point. And I also want to congratulate everyone for letting her have the silence. We all were patiently, you know, allowing you to begin without judgment. So you
I felt bad because I was like, oh,
no,
no. And metaphysical people like to hear the cards shuffle. Like it's like, you know,
Yes, we do.
it's like ASMR or something.
Right.
It
And then
is.
like I was meditating and then like a thought came in my head. I was like, am I shuffling for too long? And I was
Am
like,
I doing a reading? Right.
I know. I was
And
like,
you know
oh
what?
man.
My experience is that anyone I've gone to who is a channeler does need to take upwards of 5 minutes to really align themselves first.
Yes.
Come to peace with themselves first, and then align themselves with the spirit so they can be sure they're picking up the messages correctly. So I'll sit and wait for 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes if that's what the channeler needs.
Yes.
So that's a part of taking your space to do what you need to do, because once you start delivering it, it's coming like bam.
Yep.
Bam.
Yep.
It's not empty. It's powerful.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So never be ashamed to take that time. That time is absolutely necessary. It's sacred and it needs to be respected.
Thank
Absolutely,
you.
I agree.
Thank you. That is so true. Thank
Stay in
you.
your power.
I just wanted to acknowledge everyone. Good night.
Hi. Oh no.
Who's leaving?
Ifashe.
No, I'm not leaving.
Oh.
I just came on. So,
Oh,
and
you
I
came on. Hi.
Hello, good
So I'm
night.
saying
You're
hello. Saying
good
good
night.
night.
Hi. I was gonna say I didn't even see her come in yet.
Oh, Miss Tracey.
How you doing?
Miss Tracey,
Good, how
do
are
you?
Ifa
Sorry.
Shay, Takira had the controls, and so I told her, I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you text me." I was like, "Ifa Shay's trying to come in, and you're in charge."
If they can't,
I'm glad you text me.
It's okay.
So
No
keep
worries.
an eye out, because I know Sky just left. So keep an eye out if she needs to come back in. You have to admit.
Oh, okay. Well, do you just the host again?
Oh yeah, go back and make
Okay.
me the host. That's beautiful. What question were you going to ask though? You were asking a question.
Who was? Oh,
You
you're
were.
the host now. Me?
Yeah, you were going to ask me a question before I interrupted you with Ifa Shay.
Oh,
You
I
said
was just gonna ask if
Tracy.
you want me to make you the host because I was gonna give it to you.
Okay, hold on a second. Just gotta put this stuff away real quick.
You're fine. I think you're the host now. I don't think.
All right, I'm gonna take care of that. Get everybody back into form. Hi, Ifa Shay. How are you?
I'm good. Good.
But I do like that idea of like I guess like TarotFusion. I thought that was a cool idea. Like doing it, I was like, oh, like at first, like answering the question, and then like like as I'm looking at the cards, and then the history part like clicked too, and I was like, well, yeah, I can see why this card makes sense because look at how France has done this, blah 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 blah.
It's like a deep dive.
True.
I would love for you, not right now.
Yes.
To definitely maybe once a month. To do the next one to be on Haiti.
Yeah.
With the PowerPoint,
Yeah.
PowerPoint, that would be beautiful, including, you know, how impoverished Britain got, and really particularly to focus on if any key persons in Haiti that made a big difference in them winning the war. And with that being said, if you find any information that helps people to understand that how they won Haiti was calling on their deities.
Yeah. No, and I started.
If you can.
Yeah. No, when I put that picture up, I actually did look.
You never put a picture up, sweetie.
Oh, I didn't?
Oh, geez. I thought you knew.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh my God. I thought I was was like, she getting bold. She ain't putting a picture up or nothing.
I was still riveted.
Oh, okay. I had no idea. I thought the picture of it. I was like, oh, I have the picture. People can see the picture. I was like, dang.
I was like, she is feeling her ass.
Oh, I really thought the picture was Oh, well, yeah, no, I had a picture up, which was Haiti. And I actually did do some research on Haiti. And I was like, wow, this is actually interesting. And then that's when I found out that they did the voodoo ceremony before it started. And I started reading more about it and seeing what happened in the Haitian Revolution and how eventually they got their victory. I was like, spiritually, you prayed to your ancestor and your ancestor delivered.
That's
like,
right.
If that is not the most manifesting way to get awesomeness, I don't know what is.
Can I put it a little less gently, which is that they didn't pray.
Yeah.
They busted out their full technology. They did spells, they did rituals, and it's what our country and Europeans, that's what they call black magic, because that's what Haiti
because it works.
Because that's what Haiti used to beat them. That's why they took our religion away in the United States. And why slaves were not allowed to keep their drums, and they were not allowed to practice their African religion. It was beaten out of us because they knew.
They're afraid. They were afraid of the power that we hold. And unfortunately, they did a really good job of conditioning later generations into believing that that is evil, to the point where even we would accuse each other within the race of doing evil. But I'll tell you something, and I'm not talking what I don't know. A lot of them do work in Africa. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm not telling you what I heard.
This is what's
telling you what I witnessed.
Yes.
When you say a lot of them, though, who is that? What do you mean?
A lot of the white folks.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. They know it. Remember what you were talking about last week. You were talking about Queen Elizabeth.
That kept going to Africa. Who was that woman that kept going to Africa?
The congresswoman or the politician?
Paula White.
The Republican woman.
Yes.
Paula White.
Yeah, when she was praying for what's his name?
Right. She knew, but I wanted to go back to what you were talking about Queen Elizabeth last week. Yeah. Queen Elizabeth I. Yeah. And how they knew it way back then, that anyone who didn't agree with her religion, and it wasn't just about Catholicism, it was about the pagans. If you can find out what color the pagans were, if you ever hear about the Mists of Avalon, if you ever see the cover of the first Mists of Avalon when it was published, the woman on the front cover is a dark-skinned, very short woman sitting on a horse. All of the witchcraft that you hear coming out of England, it is, and they call them the dark people. It is all light-skinned people that came through with the Roman roads. That's why they smell. And it's interesting. This is coming up on St. Patrick's Day. Do you know why when they talk about St. Patrick and that he drove the snakes out of Ireland?
Yeah,
they were not snakes. They were the pagan people of Ireland. St. Patrick came in and he got rid of the pagans. Who are the pagans? Anyone doing Afrocentric spirituality, those were the pagans. Those were the pagans in England, and anything European that you see that is witchcraft, that's who it started with. So it's quite fascinating when you say that really Queen Elizabeth I smashed any other person, would crush them to death, killed them, murdered them, burned them at the stake. Is because she was smashing out Afrocentric religions.
No, and that's what Napoleon did too. That's why I said the two revolutions were key for bringing in Napoleon. And the minute Napoleon came in, he already had a problem with it. Like he was humiliated by the Haitians in Haiti. So he came into power. He tried to reinstall slavery back into Haiti once he got in. And the fuss it brought up in Haiti, he had to quickly squash that. He then, like I said, he took the main guy from the Haitian Revolution, one of the generals who had fought with France before and then decided to switch to fight with the Haitians. He brought him to France, tricked him first, brought him to France and starved him. He starved Alexander Dumas's dad because Alexander Dumas's dad fought with Napoleon. When Napoleon was first starting, they had wars. Napoleon basically was like, he was getting mad because this is so good. He was getting so many military honors. He went, took that guy, put him in French prison. When his wife went to try and get him out and ask for support for their family, because every French soldier is supposed to get, remember that nationalist notion that Napoleon popularized, every French the human right of the French soldiers is to get pay for their services. We need a pension. My husband served the country faithfully for all these years. Napoleon refused. Each time her family went to petition for basic human rights for her family, survival, financial survival, they would always turn him down. They eventually did release the husband. The husband ended up dying like a few months later because he was so malnourished from being in those prisons. But that was always something Napoleon did. And they said, they even note it now. They used to not note it in sources about Napoleon, about him being a controversial figure. He was very pragmatic in his racism. He only did it if it bettered himself, number one, and it bettered France, the country, number two. Everything else he did, that it had to fall in those guidelines. And Napoleon made himself an emperor because he likened himself to kings. He did. That's what he did. He came in. He likened himself to a king. Well, he was, but apparently the French were like, "Oh, you did." It wasn't, "Oh, the people who helped you." It was like, "No, you rose to power. You helped us."
They always lose their mind when they get to the top.
Exactly. "Oh, we just lost everything. You brought us back to greatness." And how does Napoleon figure it? He's like, "Oh, well, since I brought you back to greatness, make me king. You make me an emperor of France, guess what? I'm doing everything I want to do. And if that means I don't like black people, I'm going to make rules to make sure these black people
even though he
do
was
well."
Italian.
Yeah, you don't care.
But it was always, that's how everybody got to be king. Like, you know, like the Germans, that's how the royal family got there, because they conquered whoever was there in the first place. So it really, they're all family. They're all, it doesn't matter whether they started in Germany and ended up in, well, we English now, because, hey, we're here. Get us out if you don't like it, and all over.
Actually, if it wasn't for France, we would not have the formation of the German Empire, or what eventually became Nazi Germany. Because it wasn't Napoleon who caused that problem. Napoleon had a nephew who became king also. He fought a war against, he basically fought a war against pre-Germany and lost so badly, got captured, that the whole French, he's Napoleon's nephew. He's called Napoleon III. And basically he got captured. The French society collapsed again. The empire collapsed again. And basically Germany was like, "Oh, look how big and bad we are. Even though we don't have that many people, guess what? We should all unionize and become our own country." And that's how we got Germany. And Germany was like, "Oh, look, we took down the biggest, baddest people. We took down France. France was, quote unquote, the top of the world. We took down the top of the world. We must be good." And that's what put them on the road towards becoming Germany as we
Not
knew
only
it.
that, remember Marie Antoinette was German. She married into France.
Yep.
And it was supposed to be an alliance.
Yep. But once again, like learning history and learning certain cultures and already how proud the French claim to be, because remember, like I said, they're all about their culture, their nationality. That pride is going to be their downfall eventually, because it's like you use that pride to take advantage of so many people. The Haitians, part countries in Africa, still the Algerian war that they still.
They're going to be in trouble for that in a minute.
Yeah, I think they finally admitted in like 2018 that was like, oh yeah, we might have used a little bit of torture there. Like they finally admit to that. The war happened in the 50s. And they still don't know the exact how many people died there. And it was like a lot of people. It was really bad. It caused Algeria to go into a depression, like an economic depression.
Yeah.
France, when that ended. So that's a lot of blood on France's hands. With that fire, that's rage.